Hey everybody, it is Beth from Our Liberty House. It is finally May, so that means it is time for me to give you guys a full garden tour of our backyard suburban garden here in Sacramento, California, growing in Zone 9B. If you're new to our channel, welcome. We have 6 raised beds. I have to count every time, I don't know why. 6 raised beds and a few extra planter boxes that we're growing in. So let's just get going and I'll show you what we have growing this month. On this side of the garden, and I will work my way that way and just show you bed by bed what's going on and if there's any changes to the garden from last month. If you want to catch up on any of the past garden tours, just go check out our channel page, and I have a whole bunch of playlists with past garden tours and a whole lot of other extra content for you there, so make sure to check that out. I feel like so much has changed, but really not a lot has changed since last month, except everything has gotten a whole lot bigger. So let's just start. I have here in this first raised bed, this huge tall plant. This is the echinacea I showed you guys last month, growing so big. It's actually really tall compared to how it was last year. I have a smaller plant right back here behind it, probably getting a little bit more shade than this giant monster here. But yeah, just looking really, really good. The elephant in the room, or the elephant in this bed, is this oregano plant I have here. It really had a glow up over the cool season months. I gave it a pretty big chop prior to planting in this bed, and it's already gotten a whole lot bigger. I'm thinking before next season, I'll probably leave it here, but before next season, I'll probably get rid of it out of this bed just because it's as it's getting this much bigger, it just continues to be a chore to continue to kind of cut it out to make sure all the other vegetables have room to grow. So back here, you'll see our couple jalapenos are looking pretty good. Peppers are a little bit slower growers than some other plants, but I think they're doing really good. They've been in the ground for a little over a month now. And here we still have a couple leeks in the ground. I'm gonna plan to pull some of these. Maybe I'll pull them today with you guys and make some potato and leek soup for tonight. And then here in front this is Rudbeckia, so just another pollinator really. I like to intermix our pollinator plants, flowers basically, with our vegetable gardens. It's just gonna aid in better pollination rates, and I think it just makes the garden feel better. Moving down the row, here is one of our patches of onions that are still doing pretty good. Kind of want to see if it's bulbing up in here. Maybe a little bit. We haven't had the best of luck with onions, so I'm eager to see how these guys are going. But you really don't harvest them until these tops start dying back, which they have not done yet, so I haven't pulled any yet, but probably pretty soon. And then I have another herb over here, which is thyme, this cute little sign I picked up. But yeah, another herb that just kind of is taking over, but also great for cooking. And then here in the back, let me walk around. We have our tomatillo plants. We have 2 of them. If you are new to growing tomatillos, make sure you plant 2 because they need each other to pollinate. But you can see these have gotten a lot bigger since you've seen them last month, 4 weeks ago. They are well above that first line of the trellis and are setting flowers like crazy. We're starting to see some of these husks, though no little tomatillos in there just yet. but I have a feeling these guys are going to make it to the top of this trellis before we know it. And moving down the trellis line here, we have a couple tomatoes we planted. These are our 2 beefsteak tomatoes that are looking really good. The sun leaves are massive on these guys and very exciting. It's starting to reach above that trellis line, which is great. This is the tomatillo. That's kind of, is that, no, this is a tomato. I thought it was the tomatillo when I saw the fruit. So this is the second tomato. This one's actually quite a bit bigger than this other one, which is interesting. But yeah, looking really good. We've been trying to stay on top of pulling suckers, but I can see there's a few that we have missed, like this little guy right here. But yeah, looking pretty good. And moving over here, we have our butternut squash that we've planted. These guys are looking pretty good. A little slow to grow, but they're looking really healthy, so I'm sure they will be reaching for the trellis here soon. In between these beds is a little planter box. I have 2 of these over on this side of the garden, which I planted just a bunch of different flowers from seed. So I have some nasturtium in here. I have some stock, I believe. This is some calendula that's looking like it's about to bloom. I'm really happy that these guys have survived, because when I transplanted them, they did not look super great, but they seem to have taken to this box pretty well. And I think it's just going to be a really nice little flower box to attract more pollinators and beneficial insects. And the second raised bed I'm going to show you guys. So here's our little leek forest. This is definitely one that I'm going to start pulling. Maybe I'll go grab my basket really quick and just pull a few to show you guys. So let me go grab that. All right, got my little harvest basket. And let's just pull some of these out and see, because I need this for dinner. Okay, there we go. Oh, this is a good one, I think. Tied up a little bit in our drip line. Wow, look at those roots. Beautiful. Keep that dirt in there. Not bad. Give these other ones a little bit more room to grow too. I'll just pull a couple more. Not nearly as big, but that's okay. Alright, I pulled 3. I think this will be plenty for soup tonight. They look pretty good. This little baby one kind of came with it. You can tell I started these guys from seed because they're not spaced super well. And I actually have a ton of like these little babies kind of in here. So this might be kind of the next one I pull, just to give space for these other guys to get a little bit bigger. But if you haven't eaten leeks, it's the white part that you kind of make a mirepoix out of for flavoring. The green stalks I've never used. If you know how to use them, let me know. But pretty much that white part is what you actually eat. So that's why with leeks, it's really important to like continue to mound, because that dirt is kind of what, or lack of oxygen and light is what makes that white part bigger. All right, so I'm just gonna set this aside for now, in case there's anything else I want to harvest today. All right, so kind of getting back in here. Oh yeah, I got dirt everywhere on these little peppers. Okay, so in the second bed, I also have, this is where we house our hot peppers. We put all of our quote unquote sweet peppers in a different bed completely. I don't think they actually cross-pollinate, but Sometimes in the past, my sweet peppers, if I've planted them next to hot peppers, I swear they're hotter those years. So we planted them on the opposite side of the yard, which I'll show you in a bit once we get there. But we are growing for hot peppers, a Serrano pepper right here, which is looking nice and bushy. And then over here is a Scotch bonnet that's growing pretty good. It's pretty vertical right now, but you can tell it's starting to, if I can focus, give off some little side shoots there. And then kind of hiding back here, we have 2 Thai chili peppers, which are one of my favorite hot peppers. I love to dry them and kind of create like a crushed red pepper to use throughout the year. And then here, so we didn't have anything planted here the last time I toured you into the garden. But since then we have planted some squash. So we picked up a couple 8-ball squash from the nursery to plant, which they have taken to the spot nicely. So we have 2 of those growing. And then back behind them are some of those beets that we sowed from seeds. So we have some Chioggia beets I'm really excited about. And then over here are some golden beets that are also looking pretty good. And then to round out this bed, I have another echinacea here that's looking nice and tall. Should be blooming here any day. Up in this pot, just kind of at the top of this bed, I had just planted some strawberries that I picked up. All right, now let's talk about the tomato trellis. So this year we've decided to grow it in the arch, which I'm really excited about. And these guys have gotten real big in a month since you guys seen them last. I think they've grown about 1 foot. Their sun leaves are looking gorgeous and big. We have been using kind of the single leader method to grow them up the trellis. And now that they've gotten a little bit bigger, Lucas is allowing them to split into a dual leader to grow the rest of the way up. So to do that, I've talked a little bit in the past, but it's really just getting rid of those suckers. So you have that main stem or leader, you have the sun leaf, and then you usually will get a sucker growing in the nook. And that is what you just pinch off, and that will force your tomatoes to grow more vertical rather than bush out. So this is a great method when you're planting them close together like we are and want them to grow vertically. If you have them spaced nicely, you don't necessarily need to prune them so aggressively, but that's just what we've done and what works really good for us. For our tomato varieties, so we have the same tomatoes growing on the right as we do the left. So we have 6 plants of San Marzanos. And then the next one I believe is a green zebra tomato on both sides. And then we have an heirloom variety, the black Krim, which is new to us this year. I'm very excited about. That is this plant here. And then on the very end are our cherry tomatoes. We have 2 cherry tomatoes. These are kings in the tomato world and are just completely outgrowing the rest. Not by much, but a smidge. And these guys, you can see a really good example of what I'm talking about with the single leader. And then right here, we let it branch into 2. And that is what will continue up. You can see we've missed a sucker here, so I'll need my snippers to cut that guy off. But we'll kind of let it dual leader most of the way up. And then when it gets probably about to the tops of those, we'll just let them go and do as they wish. But you can see we've started to get quite a few tomato flowers. I think on our cherry tomatoes, I'm starting to see some fruit growing. There's one right there, which is super exciting. So hopefully we'll get some tomatoes soon. And then I'll show you too our cilantro that went to flower in the last video about a month ago is now starting to collect these little, or create these little seed pods. So that is the coriander. Never actually gotten coriander, so this will be kind of new to us on how to process that, but pretty exciting. And then this third bed in this front part of the garden is also very full. We have dahlias up here. I planted 2 tubers for the dahlias. Looks like I'm starting to get a flower formation right there, which is awesome. Oh my gosh, I just noticed this one tomato plant here on the end has branched here like at the base, and I didn't even notice it because it's growing here on the back side. That's hilarious. I'm gonna chop it off, I think, because we planted basil in between all of our tomato plants because it's a great companion plant for tomatoes, but it's kind of getting shaded out with all of these sun leaves here. So I'm just going to prune a little bit of the sun leaves, and I'll prune this guy off too. When you're pruning tomatoes, you don't have to cut like the whole sun leaf off. Sometimes I will just cut like the edge or the tip off, especially if that sun leaf is touching the ground or the soil. Actually, like this one right over here. Let me show you. Turn the camera just a bit. So you can see like just the anatomy of that is touching the soil. So I'm going to cut that off just because I don't want that to consistently get wet every time the irrigation is going off and cause any diseases or bacteria, or it just invites any creepy crawly pests that are on the soil level to have an easy access into that plant. All right, that looks much better. And then, so let me talk to you in front of the tomatoes a bit. I got some different lettuces growing. So over here, this is all arugula that I should start harvesting and eating, because as it gets to this size, the more you chop and process, the more it's going to grow. And then I have a couple butter crunch heads growing here. Not great germination on my lettuces because I definitely seeded a lot more than this, but hey, I'll take it, and maybe I'll come back through with some more seeds and start some more too. And then the herbs in this bed are totally taking off right now. I have some chamomile that's looking really good. I've harvested some for tea. Just noticed there's this little ladybug. What are you doing in the dirt? There you go. And then dill. The dill has gone to flower. I love the flower heads on dill. Really good for pickling, although it's never, in California, they never are in season at the same time. But so you can see the dill's kind of starting to die back a bit. And that's okay. Just gonna let it be. Have some floss flower back here. Just another pollinator friendly plant. And I planted a couple zinnias back here as well. So these are just kind of little babies for now, but I think we'll get really big. It's the giant variety, which is one of my favorites. It's what I grew last year. So very excited for those. Okay, carrying on to the next bed we have here. So this is, the first thing you're gonna notice is this beautiful larkspur. I'm so excited, it's finally in bloom. And it just is such a pretty color. I'm really excited about it. I believe this is the Earl Grey color, and I got these seeds, I believe, from Floret Farms. But wow, look how pretty they are. I'm just gonna give you a moment to admire these. All right, I'm sure most of you are here for the vegetables, so let me show you our garlic bed. So that is kind of where this larkspur has somehow direct sowed itself. But yeah, the garlic is looking really good. We have elephant garlic planted this year, so that's why the stalks are looking nice and thick. And you can see the tops are starting to die a little bit, so that's a sign that the harvest is right around the corner. We also have some onions here in the center of this bed. So yeah, once those start to die back too, we'll harvest some more onions. And the garlic is starting to put off the garlic scapes, which are beloved by us each year. So just like the onions I talked about last video, so these are basically the flower of the plant, and you want to cut these off when you see them. So I will harvest these today and maybe cook them up for dinner as a little snack. Really good sauteed, but yeah, delicious. But basically you want to chop that off so it signals to the plant to continue to bulb out its roots versus try to focus energy on flowering. All right, guys, and a big change from last month is we've moved Lisa. If you've been following us on Instagram, you maybe saw our reel that we created about moving her. So we went to a local nursery and purchased another garden box and transplanted her into this in hopes of kind of saving her, because that spot over there, like I had talked about previously, had a lot of hard pan clay that was causing her or making it difficult for her to get deep roots. And I think she was getting overwatered partially from the neighbor's pool pump. But anyways, we transplanted her and she went into complete transplant shock. Like, she looked very dead. And I'm not going to say she's not going to die. I'm honestly not sure. I've never dealt with this before, but you can see she still has some green in there. She's pretty loose. And we ended up just defoliating her and pruning her back quite a bit to help her focus her energy on her root structure. Because I'll throw a clip in here and just show you how kind of bad it was. And hopefully she'll pull through, but we'll just have to kind of wait and see what happens with Lisa the lemon tree. So yeah, stay tuned. I'll keep giving you some updates. But over here in what was her spot when she was in the ground, we actually transplanted our fig tree. We up potted it from a smaller pot. It was actually that pot right there into this one, so a little bit bigger for it before we get it in the ground, hopefully this coming cool season. But yeah, fig tree is looking really good. Lucas named it and I completely forgot what it was now. I'm gonna have to ask him because I don't remember. But yeah, she's looking pretty good. We have one little fig right here. I ought to cut it off just to let it continue to focus on its roots and its growth, but it's just one little fig and it is so stinking cute. So you have to tell me if you would cut it off or leave it. And then also in these beds, we left our snips out, but here is some French lavender I started from seed that I planted in there, and then a small Rudbeckia plant here just for some more pollinators in the garden is always good. So kind of coming back over to Lisa's new area, she kind of took that spot that had a bunch of pots, and then now we just have one more tree box. So let me talk to you about what we have growing here. This first box, we planted a zucchini. So that is probably going to take up this entire box, but really excited. I love zucchini in the summer. So that's exciting. We hooked it up to one of these raised bed deep drip stakes that we love. It's the 8-inch size, perfect for raised bed gardening. This next box has had our potatoes in it for a few months now. It is starting to show signs of potato blight. And if you're not familiar with potato blight, it's kind of just these like black spots that start to show up. It's basically like a fungal issue. We've honestly never been able to grow potatoes without getting potato blight on it. So this is just a sign for us that we're going to pull these potatoes out here probably this week, harvest them, because we don't want this fungal issue to spread throughout the garden. There are ways to slow the spread or mitigate it, different sprays and foliar sprays that you can use. However, we, in our experience anyways, just never had any good luck with it. So we're gonna choose to just harvest these potatoes, and then we'll throw the leaves into the yard waste or green waste rather than our compost bin, just to make sure it doesn't spread throughout the garden. All right, and since I have you guys here, I'm just gonna go ahead and harvest some of these potatoes. Probably not all of them. I'll wait for Lucas, but let's go ahead. There's some spider mites growing in here, so I'm gonna use my gloves. Here we are. We'll get you a little closer. Look at that beauty. All right, I think that's gonna be enough for my soup tonight. These look great. What do you guys think? So yeah, I left a few in there. I'll harvest these later this week, and we'll really dig into this box too, and remove some of the soil just to make sure we got all of them. Maybe leave a few in there because they'll start themselves over again if you've missed them. If you missed any, they'll kind of reseed themselves. So yeah. So these will just go into my little yard waste bucket, and then I'll throw it into the green waste container. Okay, moving on. I have no idea why this potato isn't red, but I'm just gonna leave it there for now. All right, so next box here is another squash. This is a yellow crook neck squash, I believe, or maybe it's a straight neck, I don't know. But yeah, giving it kind of its own bed too. A couple tulips left over. and I'm just gonna kind of leave be as they die off. And then the last box is our Jerusalem artichokes. I swear these things have grown probably 2 feet in the last 30 days. It's about as tall as I am now. Granted, you know, it's in this box, but still it's pretty wild. And it's just gonna continue to grow really, really tall. So that's cool. We have our blueberries that are looking really, really good. It's about time to start harvesting some, which I'm gonna snack on one of these right now. Okay, that's good. Maybe I'll have another one. I swear, most of them don't make it into the house. And then our final bed on this side of the yard is our big U-shaped bed. So let me start over here next to the blueberries. I planted a few different flowers over here. I have the straw flower, which has finally bloomed. Look how pretty that flower is. Holy cow. First time growing these guys. I got picked up from seed. And then I have some calendula back here. Really good, beneficial insect attractor. And then I have some corn cockle here and some marigolds. If you guys remember from last year, this U-shaped bed had a little root knot nematode issue. So we have planned this year to only plant mostly beans and flowers back here. Marigolds are really, really good for soil health. So are beans. Beans are kind of nitrogen fixers. So we have planted a ton of different beans back here. We have some yellow wax beans over here. These are all yellow wax. And then we planted some drying beans. So we have the painted pony, a red kidney bean. And here at the end, we planted some Calypso beans and Great Northern beans. And then along this fence line, we have some pole beans, so that we have a blue lake pole bean, which is more of like a green bean. And on this side of the trellis are cucumbers. So we are trying to plant or grow the Armenian cucumber, which is a great variety for California's heat. Some of the ones that we direct sowed, like this one here, didn't take the transplant well. I think it just maybe got too hot. I'm not exactly sure why. So I did direct sow a few extras in here just in case. It looks like these ones that have been behind the marigolds are looking okay. But yeah, we'll just kind of wait and see how that goes. And then here kind of towards the center before the beans are some Centercut squash, which are also climbers. We trellised them last year and it worked really, really well for us. So we're gonna try to trellis them again. Here in the corner is another Rudbeckia flower and some more floss flower. And then here are our carrots, which are a few weeks probably from harvest. We could probably harvest them now. We pulled one the other day. That was a pretty good size, but we want to see if they'll get just a little bit bigger. So we should have some carrots soon. Since last video too, since the last garden tour, we put up some solar lights, which I'm really excited about. I'm going to be talking about them in the final video of my garden project series. So if you're interested in learning more about that, I talk about it a lot in that video. That should be coming out here soon. Another thing in this bed is some more chamomile. This direct sowed itself. I had some here last year and it reseeded, which is totally fine. It's kind of not really taking up any room in this bed because it's all leaning outside of it. So I'm just letting it go. I kind of trimmed some back here to allow enough room for the beans, but Really nice little chamomile. And over on this side gets a little bit more shade than the other sides of the yard. But I did plant a zinnia, 2 zinnias, but this one over here is getting a little beat up from the borage. Let's see if we can train that up. I really need to cut this borage back a bit. It is a little unruly. You can see it's just like ripping itself apart there. But the bees are still loving it, so I hate to get rid of it completely. There's one right there. But maybe I can just trim it up a bit. And then up here is another flower. It's a Nigella Delft Blue. First time I've grown it, and I'm definitely going to keep growing this. It's absolutely beautiful little flower. I planted her back in the fall, actually, and it didn't flower until just now. So I think the weather hadn't been right. It prefers more of the spring weather than the fall weather. But really, really happy with it. It's quite pretty. All right, not quite done yet. Let me show you a few more things. Our compost is looking good. So here's our adding side. This is pretty much finished compost now. We just haven't had time to get together and harvest it. You can see there's still a lot of, larger items in here that we didn't shred down. So they haven't broken down yet, but we use a sifter and sift that out. But we need to do that so we can start to shut this side down. You can see I just mowed the grass today, so that's kind of what's on top. So I need to give this a good stir and shut this side down once we get this side out. And let's walk over to the other side of the garden to see the last raised bed. And on the way, I'll show you a few different things too. Here's our big rosemary bush now, but just an herb that we like to cook with, so it's a good little spot for it. Our hybrid tea roses are in full bloom. They're looking really, really good. I swear these blooms have gotten bigger since last year. I don't know if that's possible, but they are huge. There's a little fly in there. But yeah, she's looking really, really good. This is our original Sweet Mademoiselle hybrid tea. We planted 2 artichokes. I don't remember if these were in here during our last garden video or not, but we recently planted them. We had some slug issues right off the bat, just instant slug food apparently. So that's why there's kind of some white dust on there. We put some diet tenacious earth type of product on there to kind of deter them, which has worked pretty well outside of whenever it rains or if, it washes off, then we saw the slugs again, but haven't seen them in a couple weeks, knock on wood. So we planted this one here and another one on the opposite side I'll show you. But first, let me take a step back and show you our arched rose trellis. Looking really good. I've begun to deadhead her a bit, so she isn't looking quite as full as she did even just a few days ago. You can see this rose over here really likes to kind of stick out these big ones there, whereas this variety, I would need to look up what they are specifically. These roses tend to stay a little tighter even when they open up, but definitely not quite as like whimsical, I don't know what the right word is, but whimsical as the other side. But yeah, looking really, really good. I've begun to put together a video for you guys about ongoing rose care throughout the season, which includes some tips on deadheading. I'll talk a little bit about pruning in general, and then also fertilizing throughout the season. So stay tuned for that. I plan to kind of beef up our rose playlist this summer with different uses for roses and things like that. So if there's anything you guys want to know about roses, drop me a comment and I'd love to talk more about it. Here is that second artichoke we planted. This one's a little bit bigger than the other one. It didn't get nearly as beat up with the slugs as the other one. But yeah, looking pretty good. It's like in the spot. Here you can see this is kind of a sign that there's something eating it, which in our case was slugs. Just look at this, the bottom of this. Make sure there's nothing back there. And then here's our second sweet mademoiselle. I liked it so much I planted it twice. But yeah, the blooms are looking really good. And then back up again because we have nasturtium growing wild right here. I've had to prune it so many times because it keeps trying to crawl this way or crawl too far that way. But it's trimmed out really nice. I kind of want to like throw a trellis behind it and just let it grow up a little bit more because that's what it's trying to do. But it's nice here because it hides our sprinkler system. Makes it a little challenging to get to our hose, but that's okay. And then our last raised bed here. So we put this bed here because it gets the best winter sun, but we are still using it here in the summer months. So I teased earlier about planting our sweet peppers in a completely different spot. So this is the other side of the yard that we planted them. So we have a couple mini bell peppers here that are looking pretty good. All three of these. You can see we've went ahead and topped these peppers, which we have another video coming out about topping peppers here soon, so stay tuned. These three peppers here are the Shishito peppers. We started from seed. I've got, a fourth Shishito. And then up here we have our three Habanadas. This is the second year we've grown Habanadas, and last year they grew incredibly slow. Probably doesn't help that it looks like something's eating this. But I'm gonna have to just, I don't see anything on there. Keep an eye on that. And then we have our Hungarian wax peppers here. One of my favorite peppers, great for salads and snacking. And then I did plant a row of sunflowers here in the back. Those have really grown in the last week. So that should hopefully be really pretty here midsummer. And then I direct sowed a few other flowers. I have calendula back here. Looks like only one germinated, so I might try to re-sow those. Planted a couple marigolds here. And up here are some beets. I don't know, these don't look great, but we'll just have to wait and see. They might need a little bit of water. This is our only bed we don't have irrigation hooked up to on a timer, so it's sometimes a tricky bed to remember to water consistently. And then you'll see too, we have some onions here. I kind of planted onions all over the place, but onions are a great companion plant too because they repel a lot of different pests. So don't be afraid to plant them all over like me, but this is more of a fall plant, and then you harvest here in the next month. So. And then you'll see up the wall of the trellis, we have our passion fruit vine kind of growing wild. So a little thin on the bottom, but it's thickening up at the top, and I have a feeling it's gonna grow back down. So hopefully get a few passion fruits this year. We didn't get any last year. Granted, it was the first season we had it planted here, so we will just wait and see what happens. All right, let me show you guys our 2 other trees. We have an avocado tree here. His name is Alfonso. He's looking pretty good this year. He's really bushed out quite a bit. You can see he's even teed off here at the top, which is great. Probably need to raise the trellis here soon. You can see he's definitely outgrown the one we have. So that'll be on our to-do list, but looking pretty good. And our last tree I'll talk about is Leonardo, our lime tree. He's also looking very full and fluffy. So this is just like an example because we planted him the same time we planted Lisa, the lemon tree. And that's why we knew Lisa was having an issue because she looks nothing like this did, or she looked nothing like this does. But yeah, Leo is looking great. Nice green leaves. Haven't seen any fruit yet form, but I'm sure he'll get a few. We got a couple last year, but yeah, looking really good. No signs of leaf miners, or at least nothing to be concerned about. Tour. So a lot has changed, a lot's going on. There's a lot more to come, especially as the weather continues to warm up. So thanks so much for joining me today. I'm gonna wash off this produce I harvested to prep for dinner tonight, and I can't wait to see you guys next time. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to our channel. It's the best way to support us and let us continue to bring you content like this. If you have any video ideas for us, feel free to comment below. I'd love to start a conversation with you if you have any questions, and we'll see you next week.